Hey everyone, if you're new here, my name's Lottie, and if you're a subscriber, welcome back to my channel. I really can't believe it's already time to film my November TBR video. October is definitely one of my favorite months of the year, so I'm definitely a little bummed that it went by so fast. Because October is one of my favorite months, I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to read spooky or themed books. And while I love leaning into the seasons, it's kind of nice to feel free to just pick whatever I want to pick. So I feel like my mindset is already kind of shifting to November, and even though I'm sad to say goodbye to October, I'm super excited to pick out some new books to have on my TBR for the month. I am back using my TBR jar. If you missed it, in my October TBR, I used a spooky cauldron to help us pick our TBR, but we're gonna go back to Old Reliable and use the prompt jar. I wanna do a little recap on October. So in October, we chose 8 books for the TBR, and I so far have read 6.5 of those books. I'm currently reading Apprentice to the Villain, so I think I'm gonna be able to do that, but I don't know if I'll be able to get to that 8th and final book in time. The book that I didn't read from my October TBR was Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I think the reason I didn't get to it in October, I kind of added this to my TBR last month as a palate cleanser, a light, refreshing, easy bingeable book, and I feel like I was able to find those this month through other seasonal reads like the X-Hex and the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. So I was kind of using those as my quick bingeable books and just didn't get to this one. So it's going back on the TBR card, but I think I'm gonna stick with 8 books. I feel like that's been a good sweet spot for my monthly TBR. I like making a little bit of a bigger TBR to give me some wiggle room and ability to mood read, and I don't put too much pressure on myself to 100% finish it each month, but I definitely try to. I wanted to address a few books that I have on my radar for this month that aren't on my TBR cart. So books on Kindle Unlimited or Libby, or just books that I would read on my Kindle. Okay, the first one that I have listed is Belladonna. This is part of, I think, a YA trilogy. I really don't know too much about this book. I've just been hearing and seeing so many people read it lately, and I'm intrigued to see what I think. And because it's on Kindle Unlimited, I figured it would be a really easy one to throw on the TBR. And then I think the main other one on my TBR that is not on the cart is the Throne of Glass series from Sarah J. Maas. I'm really sorry to my Throne of Glass truthers who think I should read Assassin's Blade third, I think is what most people say. I think I've made the executive decision that I am gonna read Assassin's Blade first. I feel like you can do it either way. Please don't come for me if you disagree with that choice. Lots of my friends in my life have personally recommended me the series, and I've talked with them about what they think, and they don't really think it matters. I think the way that my brain works, I am very structured and detail oriented, and I think reading the prequel first is what's gonna work best with my brain. But I definitely could see how reading it third would work really well for a lot of people too. And I don't feel like there's a right or wrong, so wanted to throw that out there. With all that being said, let's start picking out some books for the November TBR. I'm so excited. But if you all ever have ideas for prompts for my TBR jar, definitely leave them in the comments below on any of my TBR jar videos, and include the jar emoji with your comment so I can search for them when it comes time for me to refill the jar. Okay, enough talking, let's pick the first prompt. Okay, a book with the color pink on the cover. I intentionally phrased these prompts like this, where it's just the color pink is on the cover. The rule is not that it has to be a pink cover. The first thing that I thought of when I pulled this prompt is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This book has hot pink writing on the cover. I think it could be a fun one to read in fall. I don't know why, but I just get fall vibes from this book. I'm sure I could read it any time of year. It's just one of Ali Hazelwood's STEM romances, but this is the next book that I want to read from Ali Hazelwood. I could also choose The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. Honestly, I've kind of been in my literary fiction era the past few months. I'm not reading a ton of literary fiction, but I feel like when I do, it ends up being my standout book of the month, which makes me feel like I should lean more into that. So this could be another good option. This book is kind of magical realism. The main character in this book, her name is Lauren, and she comes home one day to her husband, Michael. The only thing is she's not married. And then all of a sudden, Michael goes to the attic to change a light bulb, and then suddenly a new husband appears. So her attic is this vortex of swapping out all these different husbands. I think it's kind of exploring how to know when to stop looking for better and just start living. I didn't really have this one on my radar for the month, honestly, though, because I feel like this could be a really fun one to read in the spring. I don't know why this cover is just giving spring to me. So we'll see. I can't tell if this is pink or purple, but I really want to read Binding 13, so I might just pretend it's pink. Also, this is the floppiest book I think I've ever held. This is the first book in the Boys of Tommen series. I don't know too much about this series other than the fact that a lot of people who really like Magnolia Parks really like the Boys of Tommen series, and I loved Magnolia Parks. That was probably my favorite series I've read this year. I'm not 100% sure where this is set. I want to say it's like Ireland or Scotland. It's called The Boys of Tommen because it's set at Tommen College. And it's about this guy, Johnny Kavanagh, who's like a rugby star at Tommen College. And then the shy new girl, Shannon. And I think they end up having a romance and this story just kind of follows them. I've heard it's like kind of toxic, perhaps. I'm very intrigued by this series. Definitely want to start it soon. Let me know in the comments, should I start Boys of Tommen next or the Addicted Calloway Sisters series? Because I feel like they have similar vibes with Magnolia Parks, and I don't know which one to do next. So give me your opinions in the comments. We also have Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, but I want to read Love Theoretically before Love on the Brain. This is like the book I should pick if I'm picking like a book with a pink cover, but I want to read Love Theoretically first. So this one's disqualified for that reason. I could have picked Wild Love for this one if I would have read Hopeless last month. Don't talk to me. Then we have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This one has pink text on the cover. This is a book that I started in 2021. And I got like 50 pages into it. I started reading this when I was trying to get back into reading and it just didn't capture me. But I do feel like I would like it a lot more now. But I think because I soft DNF'd it, I'm like, I think I'm gonna go with Love Theoretically. I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood in October and hated it, but I also have read The Love Hypothesis and Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and I really liked both of those. So I'm feeling optimistic about this STEM romance, but I'm also intrigued to see if it feels too formulaic, because that's my only concern, I think, with her other STEM romances. I'll report back, but the first book on our November TBR is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Okay, prompt number 2, a popular book that you haven't read yet. So the first one that comes to mind is Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I feel like the Throne of Glass series is the ultimate popular book I haven't read yet. That one is top of mind. Divine Rivals is definitely a popular book that I haven't read yet. I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO on this one and definitely want to read it in the fall and winter as well. The Cruel Prince is another fantasy series that I could start. I feel like this one is super popular. It's a trilogy. I feel like everyone has read that. I also feel like everyone and their mother has read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So popular, and I'm dying to know what all the hype's about. This one's like a YA mystery, I'm pretty sure. Another popular book I have not read yet would be Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I am really interested in starting this trilogy so that I can also read the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. This is the first step in that whole journey. I'm also really interested in reading Phantasma, which is a new release book that a lot of people have been reading lately. I've heard reviews that it has like Caraval vibes, but it makes me feel like I need to read Caraval before reading Phantasma, so needing to start this for that reason too. I could really probably pull out almost any of these books and say it's popular because I feel like so many of them are, but at the end of the day, what I think I'm going to choose is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I meant to put this on my October TBR and then just totally forgot because it wasn't like in front of me, and so I was kind of bummed I didn't get started with Throne of Glass in October, and I think November would be the perfect month to get started with it. I know I don't have the physical copy with me. I'm probably gonna read it on my Kindle. The Assassin's Blade is the second book on my November TBR. Okay, time for prompt number 3. Lowest rated book on your Goodreads TBR? No, that is so not the vibe. The TBR jar is trying to sabotage me, guys. All right, I'm gonna go with the lowest rated book on my cart. Okay, so as we speak, I'm creating a new shelf on Goodreads called Physical TBR, and I'm adding all of the books, you guessed it, on my Physical TBR to that shelf. And then we're gonna sort it because I wanna pick a book from my actual TBR if we're doing lowest rated. I don't wanna just like pick randomly a really low rated book and read it on my Kindle, because what fun is that? I feel like I just wouldn't end up reading that book because like what motivation do I have to read it? Okay, that took forever. Okay, and I'm gonna sort it by average rating in reverse. Oh wow, The Husbands is the lowest rated book. Wow, that's so interesting. Okay, let's add The Husbands. Like I said, I feel like I've been reading a lot of literary fiction here and there, and they've been some standouts for me in the past few months. I also read quite a bit of like magical realism type books in September, so I feel like I'm still in that era a bit, and I really like a magical realism moment, so I'm interested to see what I'll think of this one. So that is the second book on our November TBR. Okay, let's keep these good vibes going and pick prompt number 4. A book that's a standalone. I think it could be a good opportunity to throw a mystery thriller in there. So my options for that are Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I actually just got this at Barnes recently. If you saw my last vlog, I read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell earlier this year, and it was one of my favorite thrillers of the year. And I'd heard a lot of good things about Then She Was Gone, so wanted to pick it up. I'm also really interested in We Used to Live Here. I've been hearing pretty good things about this one, and it is a pretty short, I think it's more so horror than thriller, but it's basically about this couple who flips houses, and one day when they're working on renovations, there's a knock on the door from the people who used to live in this house. Thus, we used to live here. And basically they knock on the door and say, oh, we used to live here, you know, it'd be okay if we come in and show our kids around. Being people pleasers, the couple lets them in. And then from there, very strange things start happening. So that's kind of the setup for this one. I will say, all the books just fell. I could read Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I wanted to put a thriller on, but this is actually what I'm excited about because I looked at the shelf and I was like, wait, I know a standalone. My boyfriend Anders actually just got finished reading this in October and he really loved it. He gave it 4 stars, which for him is very good. He's very stingy with his 5 stars. It's always exciting to have a book that is new and buzzy on the TBR. So our 4th book on the November TBR is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Okay, time for prompt number 5. A book published this year. Guys, is it time to read Magnolia Parks Into the Dark? I think it might be. This came out this year, didn't it? Guys, I think this might be what I want to pick. I'm scared. Yeah, copyright 2024. I'm nervous. I really want to finish this by the end of the year though. Okay, this is my first instinct, but let me look. I also really want to read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore in November. And when was this published though? This was published in 2024 as well. Okay. These are 2 totally different vibes. I don't know how to choose. I want both of these on my TBR. I feel like there will be more opportunities for Magnolia Parks. So I'm gonna choose the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. We're gonna try to get Magnolia Parks on this TBR because I don't know why all of a sudden I'm like wanting that on my TBR really badly, but I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe in October. I'm not gonna lie guys, I didn't love it, but I already picked up the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and I wanna give it a try. It's a really quick read and I actually might listen to it on audiobook while like baking or doing some fun fall activity. It's definitely like very atmospheric. My biggest criticism of the first book is that there like wasn't a plot, but I've heard from many people that this one is much better. So I have some hopes that this will be more enjoyable. The 5th book on our November TBR is The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore. Okay, we have 3 prompts left to go. A book that's been on a previous TBR. Okay, so that would either be The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery or Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I think I might go with The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery. I think it's time to put it back on the TBR. I've heard so many good things about this book. It's a quick read, and like I said, I've been in kind of a literary fiction mood, I feel like. And it's like a bookish book. The main character, A.J. Fickery, I think owns a bookstore. I've heard it's just a really cozy read. I think it'd honestly be perfect for November. So book number 6 on the November TBR is The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. I will really try to read it this month, guys, I promise. All right, only 2 left to go. Okay, prompt number 7 is a book with a 1-word title. Let's see what we got. Caraval is certainly an option. Beartown is also an option, but I think I want to save this one and read it like in the proper winter. So probably not gonna pick this one. Hopeless is 1 word, and that's it. So maybe Caraval. Ooh, I could also do Belladonna. I don't have that much fantasy on here, so I'm tempted to do Caraval. I think I'm gonna do Caraval over Belladonna. I really do want to read Belladonna soon, but because the only other fantasy book I have on this TBR so far is Assassin's Blade, I feel like Caraval could be a nice like YA fantasy to throw in the mix just to mix up the vibes. Which I think Belladonna, I don't even know what genre it like technically is. It's like fantasy, romance, young adult, mystery, gothic. I definitely want to read Belladonna soon. Maybe we'll get it for our last prompt. But what about Magnolia Parks? I don't know, guys. Okay, our 8th and final prompt for the November TBR. A book set in a different continent. So you know what that means. It's time for Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. Guys, I'm so excited for this. They literally put her on top of Louis Vuitton luggage and like redid the LV to say MP. I'm obsessed with her. The last book ended on such a cliffhanger. I've just been like putting it out of my head. I cannot wait to read this. I actually just like got myself hyped up about this in this video and I just went for it. So, all right, those are all 8 books that I've selected for my November TBR. Let's do a quick recap. The first prompt said a book with the color pink on the cover, so for that I chose Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. The second prompt was a popular book you haven't read yet, so for that I chose The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. Next prompt I pulled was lowest rated on Goodreads, and so for that I was forced to choose The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. I'm actually looking forward to this though. Next we got a book that's a standalone, so for that I chose Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. This is her latest release, it just came out in September, so I'm really excited to see where it ranks in my Sally Rooney rankings. Then we got a book published this year, so for that one I chose The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore. Then we got a book that's been on a previous TBR, so for that I chose The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. Prompt 7 was a book with a one-word title, so I went with Caraval by Stephanie Garber. And the 8th and final prompt for the November TBR was a book set on a different continent, so for that I chose Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. So here is the final TBR minus The Assassin's Blade. It's shaped up to be a really interesting TBR. I wouldn't have necessarily like picked out all these books and put them together if it weren't for the prompts. So I think this continues to just prove that it's a really fun concept and allows me to kind of get outside my comfort zone and get a good range of books on each monthly TBR. I think the books I'm most excited to read are Into the Dark, Intermezzo, and probably The Assassin's Blade. I think the books I probably have the lowest expectations for are The Husbands, given its low rating on Goodreads, and The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, but who knows, maybe one of them will surprise me. And I think these 3 are kind of my like middle of the road guys. Like I'm not expecting great things, but I'm also not ruling it out either. That's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you for picking out my November TBR with me. I had so much fun making this video. You all really seem to love watching them and I love making them, so we'll keep it going as long as that's the case. If you made it this far in the video, comment down below with the turkey emoji so I can know who made it to the end. Let me know what book is at the top of your November TBR in the comments down below. And with all that being said, I think that is it for today's video. I really appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye!